The Mackenzie Country is an area of national importance. The Mackenzie holds iconic picture postcard views for visitors on their way to Mount Aoraki and the lakes Benmore, Pukaki, Ohau and Tekapo via the Hakatara-Mea, Mackenzie, Lewis and Berks passes en route to Queenstown, Wanaka and the West Coast. The legendary Mackenzie landscape inspired artists and writers such as Bill Sutton, Rita Angus, Esther Hope, Olivia Spencer-Bauer and Janet Frame. The iconic Church of the Good Shepherd at Tekapo was designed by local artist Esther Hope. There's a lot of history in the legendary Mackenzie Basin, and at the moment, it's being threatened. At present, there are applications to take millions of cubic meters of water from high country rivers to irrigate more than 27,000 hectares of this land. In the past, the landscape has been altered for electricity generation. This man-made water engineering isn't an argument for continuing to destroy this environment, which is the gateway to our southern Alps and a major tourist attraction in its own right. The Tekapo River was once a magnificent braided river, as this painting by Esther Hope shows. Today, the effects of water abstraction can be seen in the depleted riverbed. This braided river's water has been diverted to the Tekapo man-made canal. Now the riverbed is full of weeds and rogue pine trees. There's simply not enough water flowing down it. In the past, periodic natural floods scour the gravel free of these invasive weeds. The proposed water takes don't take into consideration the visual effects on the existing landscape values. These sites can be seen from the main roads and high vantage points such as Mount John. Irrigating this dry landscape would also destroy the grand entrances to the multi-million-dollar high country tourism and film industries, for which the scenery is a major drawcard for international visitors. We don't believe intensive farming is in the long-term best interests of this dry land. Damming and taking water from the rivers and streams in this area so that selective land can be intensively farmed and irrigated will severely affect the wetlands, the vegetation, the soil, the flora, fauna, fish and bird life, and destroy this unique landscape. This is contrary to the purpose and principles of Sections 5 and 6 of the Resource Management Act, and is clearly an inappropriate development on what is an outstanding natural landscape. The Mackenzie Basin is an extremely fragile and rare ecosystem. Dr. Susan Walker, our ecology expert, says that in her knowledge, there's no other place in New Zealand where these rare ecosystems occur to such an extent in low-lying landscapes that haven't been developed. More than 40 species of birds rely on braided rivers and ephemeral streams in this region. Terns, gulls, shags and waders all make this land their home. There are internationally significant bird habitats adjacent to these proposed irrigation developments. 4 of these birds are already seriously threatened with extinction: the black stilt, the black-fronted tern, the wrybill, and the black-billed gull all face an uncertain future, and even further habitat loss through these proposed water abstractions. Once a wild river is dammed or is over-allocated, its natural wildness is destroyed. The ecosystems that it supports die, overtaken by introduced weed species. The rivers sustain life along every kilometre they flow, from the blue ducks to the eels to the wrybills that breed on the gravel islands of these braided rivers. These proposed disturbances of the riverbeds, construction of intakes and discharge structures will adversely affect the ecosystems dependent upon rivers in the Mackenzie Basin. In 1864, Julius von Haast described the Mackenzie Plain as a great tawny expanse of low tussock grassland. Although the grassland has been degraded by burn-off and grazing, it's still mainly a wide open plain. But this inspiring landscape is under threat with these irrigation consents. Existing central pivot irrigators can be clearly seen in the Mackenzie Basin south of Twizel to Marama. There are visible earthwork scars, pumping stations and water storage ponds. These are right alongside the main tourist route. We disagree with Dr. Michael Stephen, who believes that central pivot irrigators are low-profile, semi-transparent structures with little overall visual effect on the landscape. Putting in more central pivot irrigators, storage ponds, dams, barns and pumping stations will change the landscape for us all. These structures will be seen from the roads and from high vantage points such as Mount John, and could affect our bid to the World Heritage Committee next year to make the Mackenzie Basin a World Heritage Site because of its clear night sky and outstanding landscape values. Our views of the mountains and plains are being increasingly blocked by pine tree shelter belts. This will be exacerbated by the proposed intensification of farming. These shelter belts can be seen at Site 23, the edge of Lake Ohau. Across the road are sites 24, 25, 26 and 27. Here it's proposed to keep thousands of cows housed in cubicle stables 8 months of the year. It's right next to a Queen Elizabeth Trust covenanted paddock of tussock.